Unless Myles Garrett gets traded, I never want to see this man's face again. We'll touch on why that is next here on the Locked On Ravens Squad Show.
I'm Kadri Ismail. We got to 500. The Ravens, survived one. I am glad to say that. On to the next.
And I'm Kevin Oestreicher, the host of Locked On Ravens, and the Ravens have finally started to turn a corner defensively with pass rush. They were the real MVPs in this game, carrying the offense and special teams. We'll talk about it all next here on the Locked On Ravens Squad Show.
Rise and shine, it's the Ravens Squad. Everything Baltimore Ravens every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from the heart of Charm City. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Flock together and squad up. The Ravens Squad Show starts now.
What's going on, Ravens flock? Welcome to another episode of the Locked On Ravens Squad Show. We are here after the Ravens take down the Cleveland Browns 23-16. We'll touch on all of that, considering the Ravens just got to 500 for the first time since week 2, which they played the Cleveland Browns as well. So very good to see them back at 500. We'll touch on the Ravens offense, maybe some Ravens offensive line, conversations. I'm sure we'll touch on that. The Ravens defense continues to dominate. We'll touch on that, and we'll touch on the AFC North in general. The Pittsburgh Steelers picked up a win over the Cincinnati Bengals on Sunday as well, so the Ravens still remain one game back. But we see enough from the Ravens in this contest to give us the feeling that the Ravens could potentially be the AFC North champions. Kevin, the Ravens take care of business against the Browns. Wasn't the shellacking that we saw in week 2. Lots and lots of miscues, but overall, I got to say a win's a win.
A win is a win. It was gross. It was ugly. It was something that you wish would have gone a little bit smoother, but it counts 1-0 all the same. Goes in the record book as 1-0. Ravens are now on a nice little 4-game win streak. We got back to 500 if you're Baltimore. And, I said it on the watch along in the instant reaction, where if you're the defense, you better be expecting a steak dinner or some Rolexes or something from that offense and special teams unit, considering how the defense saved them throughout the game. Pass rush was on point, forced the turnover, and now the Ravens offense couldn't do anything with it. But Browns got shut out in the second half. Shedeur Sanders and Dylan Gabriel couldn't do anything. 2 rookie quarterbacks going up against, especially one in their debut, going up against this Ravens defense. Really tough all the way around, but definitely still some concern points with the offensive line. I feel like we're kind of a broken record every single week saying that. It was definitely on full display, and like you said, Sam, and I think a lot of people are saying it now, Thanksgiving's coming up, and I said this on the instant reaction. I'm very thankful the Ravens will not have to see Myles Garrett again this season, but it wasn't just Falele. Roger Rosengarten has looked horrible this season, and he got thrown on the ground by Myles Garrett. Got pushed into the backfield, which resulted in a Lamar interception going off of his helmet. Andrew Voorhees just really bad also. Ronnie Stanley got worked at points. It's just the Ravens, they're lucky that they were playing an offense as bad as Cleveland's. Now, they also weren't as lucky they were playing a defense as good as Cleveland, so I guess it evens out in some ways because they're going to be facing probably some worse defenses than Cleveland's moving forward, but a couple of better offenses. But at the end of the day, they were able to overcome their mistakes. The problem is just like how those mistakes happen, particularly on special teams with LeJontay Wester, who just doesn't have to die for that ball. He just let it bounce. For Jake Hummel going off sides on that 4th and 4. The only positive on special teams felt like was Tyler Loop, who was nails for them and showed up when it mattered. Ravens still have red zone problems. I still trust them to pick up 14 yards more than I trust them to pick up 4. Like it's those situations where you're glad that you can learn from it after a win. And that seems to be the conversations that Baltimore needs to have coming out of this game, knowing that you're facing another quote unquote easier opponent against the Jets. But like we saw in this game, no NFL game is easy. You got to earn it. And they did just enough to earn this one.
Just enough. AFC is such a weird division or conference, rather. AFC North is a weird division. And welcome to the weird game that is the Baltimore Ravens versus the Cleveland Browns. And especially when you talk about playing in Cleveland, the nuttiest, craziest things can happen. And we saw it again tonight. We saw it where, like you said, Kevin, the red zone woes are just mind-boggling. The way in which you look at Lamar Jackson, uh, gosh, I mean, his interceptions are off of tip passes. He gets a pick six, your dude, Keaton Mitchell. Oh, I thought Kevin said something. My bad. I thought he
Okay.
said his
Okay.
dude, Keaton Mitchell, who should be playing a hell of a lot more and all that. Da, da, da,
Yeah,
da.
he should.
Oh, the
Yeah,
pick six.
not on that play though.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, and a good thing, at least a glass half full, he got back into it, and you know what? He did his thing. So I respect him for that. Stuff like that happens all the time. Heck, I mean, I'm sure you can look at the archives and be like, Kadri, bruh, look at the ball bouncing off your chest and getting picked off in the Pittsburgh Steelers game or the Green Bay Packers game. Those are things you will never forget decades later. Anyway, I digress. But the cool thing is Hurricane. When you needed it the most, Hurricane was called. Hurricane saved the season. Mark Andrews lining up for the tush push, and literally the call was Hurricane. And that gave them an opportunity with Pancake Pat doing a heck of a job of sealing and kicking out, opening up a nice run lane for Mark Andrews to do a boot action, fake dive, boot action, and accelerate down the football field. I'm curious what the metrics are going to be as far as his speed, but I know we talked about it going way back to minicamp where Mark Andrews was doing that same kind of burst speed, get out there and do his thing, flow and vibe. Well, week 11, Hurricane showed up and Mark was able to practice and then put into play what he preached and score a critical game-winning touchdown. So this game, I think, was Shedeur Sanders and Dylan Gabriel. I mean, those dudes, they didn't have any business being on the field with the Ravens defense. And if the defense, would have faltered and not looked good, then they weren't deserving of a win. But we saw that this defense saved the day. And what did Marlon Humphrey talk about, guys? We need to give Lamar an opportunity to not be stressing about winning games and putting on the Superman cape. We need to bail him out well. Bruh, the offense was sinking bad, and the defense bailed them out time and time again in this game. And then you talk about the three phases. You got to win at least two of the three phases. Well, they won one of the three phases, and that's the defense side of the ball. And so it was a tumultuous game, but thank goodness for Hurricane.
Thank goodness for Hurricane indeed. And let's touch on that. There's plenty to talk about this offense, and I'm sure we'll get to it. But one thing I do want to talk about, and this Hurricane play definitely did put this at the forefront of my mind before this show, is Mark Andrews has been the guy that everybody's talked about. He could potentially be traded. He could potentially not be re-signed after this season. Out of the three tight ends, and I know Charlie Kohler's he's a Swiss Army knife. I think he's like really the guy that could do everything that Isaiah Likely can do, as well as everything that Mark Andrews can do. So this really isn't about him, but more so along the lines of Mark Andrews versus Isaiah Likely. Isaiah Likely has had an opportunity to kind of step up and be that guy for this team. Hasn't been the case. He's on the field. I mean, the snap counts are very comparable to Mark Andrews in a sense, so you can't use snaps as an excuse here. Mark Andrews looked really good this season, especially lately with that touchdown grab, the touchdown run, the Hurricane. Q, what are your thoughts of Mark Andrews? He just eclipsed to be the highest, most receiving yards ever for Baltimore Ravens receiver ever, eclipsing Derrick Mason's mark, so congratulations to him. But what are your thoughts about Mark Andrews now that we've seen him again pull out a victory for this Ravens team? Could he be back next season? This is the thing that we're talking about the offseason. Well, this is the play that kind of guaranteed him a spot on this team in 2026.
I don't know about guaranteeing a spot. Sure, there are conversations to be had, but I mean, there have been players throughout the Ravens' history that have been traded or not signed back for a multitude of reasons, and they were great players. So if Ed Reed can walk out that door and play for the Texans, then Mark Andrews can walk out that door and play for another team. I think business will be business in the offseason, and business is business current right now. He's on the team, he's contributing, and he made just an unreal play in Hurricane. And so, as much as we look at Hurricane, we also got to look back on what was it against the Rams with Jared Versus and company, handled them at the goal line. I believe that was the game. And so, yeah, like there's some great plays, amazing plays, outstanding plays. There's some plays that, when you look at the totality of it all, when that time comes, and hopefully it doesn't come for a good long while past January, then I think, yeah, those decisions will be, to the benefit of the Baltimore Ravens. And I'm sure Mark Andrews will figure out what his plans are then. But bigger picture with Isaiah Likely, bigger picture with this offense, bigger picture with the way I think Todd Monken has called, some games. The elephant in the room is the offensive line. Mark, Isaiah, doesn't really matter. Derrick had a huge run. But I think that just goes to show you when you finally can get an opening, that's the potential of what we see for this offense to really excel. The rollout that Lamar had to get the ball down to Zay for the 45-yarder, I mean, that's huge. That's what you need when you talk about what this offense can be about. But red zone woes, the physicality of the offensive line comes into question. Myles Garrett, obviously, he's a man amongst men, and rightly so. But the offensive line, they just keep on letting this team down, and that's going to be the biggest telltale story this year, whether or not the offensive line will show up in Pittsburgh, as well as Baltimore, as well as in Cincinnati, and win this division. You're not going anywhere. The Patriots are going to be coming to town. That's going to be another test. The Patriots are coming to town. Mother of pearl. Like that earlier on was marked as a dub. Now, I don't know. The Patriots are coming to town, plus the division. That's going to be a big concern in my book for this team moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, I also wouldn't go as far as to say he solidified a spot on next year's team, but I do think that, we're seeing his value, and, for what he brings to the table, he still is extremely valuable. I mean, he and Lamar, and I know that, those guys have talked for years about their connection and how it's street ball. I mean, we heard that again today, just like the street ball connection that those two have with one another. That doesn't grow on trees, and it's very valuable to have those three tight ends. I mean, on Hurricane, Charlie Kolar had a great inside seal block to spraying with Ricard. Likely's had a down year this year. There's no question about that, just in terms of, his stats and what he's brought to the table, but he still made some big plays this year. Like Likely's still getting his and getting involved. I know that everybody was expecting like the big, okay, Isaiah's about to emerge as like this top 3 tight end. With the injury and everything, hasn't necessarily been that way, but it is such a luxury to have Andrews, Likely, and Kolar together. But, I will piggyback on what you said, Q, about the O-line, about how, I mean, again, I feel like a broken record. It is the Ravens' duty to put the best 5 out there that they can to protect Lamar Jackson. The roster is what it is right now. You can't do anything about it. They didn't do enough in the offseason to address the guard position. We know. They didn't address it at the trade deadline. We know that too. But it's their duty to put the best 5 out there to protect their quarterback and give him the best shot. And they're not doing that because it just feels like they're caught up in the game of, well, we like our guys and we don't care. These are our guys and we're going to go forth with them, where you can't, I mean, nobody who is watching or listening, or, the 3 of us, we can't sit here with a straight face and tell you, well, the Ravens are putting their best 5 out there on their roster, because they're not doing it. Because why not try something different if it's clearly not working for you? If you put out Emory Jones or Ben Cleveland or Corey Bullock or whoever, yeah, sure, it could go a little worse. I honestly don't know what that looks like because we're pretty rock bottom right now with where this offensive line is. But it could be more of the same. Missed assignments, guys falling on the ground. But at least you're trying something with the hopes of, okay, there's a chance this thing can get better. And maybe it does. But you're not doing that. And that to me is a huge disservice to what, to what the Ravens are trying to do offensively. It's not just about Lamar Jackson. It's also about Derrick Henry and that run game, where I thought early they were opening up some run lanes, but then it got more of the same. And yes, you're not going to face a Myles Garrett every single time around. You're not going to face the Browns defense every single time around. But I mean, at the end of the day, like when it's essentially your whole unit, and even guys are suffering. Like, I truly believe Tyler Linderbaum is suffering by playing next to Daniel Failele and Andrew Voorhees on a weekly basis. Like, I think that it doesn't help his play, and with the way Rosengarten's regressed. The problem with the tackle position is you have nobody out there that you can trust as a backup. But now that McCary, is gone. I think, maybe you do throw Ricard out there, see what happens for Rosengarten. Maybe he's your answer. But I just feel like Boom is not the answer in any of those spots. I feel like if anything, Emory Jones, you throw him in there. And I know you talk about him being a rookie and welcome to the NFL. I at this point though, I don't see with Cleveland. I don't think the Ravens are going to play Ben Cleveland with Corey Bullock. Do they trust an undrafted guy who's now in his second season, but still to come in there? I'd trust him over a rookie right now. But I think if you throw out like a Bullock Emory Jones combo on the right side, how much worse is that than what you're getting already with Failele Rosengarten? I'm not saying that they're going to do any of that because I don't believe that they will, but it's going to become a problem when you're facing better offenses. And maybe it's a little worse defense than Cleveland brings to the table, right? But those better offenses will punish that defense a little more than the Browns offense did today. And that puts even more pressure on the offense to step up and perform.
Big time.
I was going to say Slicer59 actually has a great comment. I understand the O-line is bad, but I think Lamar has lost his electricity. He can't get around slow linemen or linebackers. He's much slower. He might still be injured. And that kind of came up often in some of the chats that I was having as far as Lamar's burst, because and this is the relevancy of it, because when you have the offensive line playing as bad and you don't have Lamar being able to escape pressure, then it expounds the problem even more so, because Daniel Failele and company, Lamar was able to hide those gross mistakes that were being made by the offensive line. And now you don't have that. So it brings things back to earth and puts more sense of urgency on trying to get this team to play up to that bigger and better level, whether it be Emory Jones or Bullock or whomever. Like you said, Ben Cleveland, he is not seeing that field no time soon. But I just every single day you wonder what is it that they are thinking within the process, and even trying to help Daniel get better, because he's so top heavy. Like, I've never seen it where such a big physical looking guy can be so just not it. It doesn't compute. And so coaching wise and fitness wise and helping him, I don't see it. I don't understand.
Yeah, I don't understand either, honestly. And I'm out of answers. It looks like the Ravens are either out of answers or refuse to even consider the question. So we will talk about this a little more. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll touch more on this offense, because I think the offense is the story of the day here in terms of what this team needs to do to pull forward and potentially have a chance to make some noise here at the end of the season. We'll touch on it here next on the Ravens Squad Show. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. You and I make decisions every day, but on PrizePicks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement of the sports season. Whether you're following the NFL, NBA, or both, there's no better time to jump in on the action. If you haven't tried it yet, PrizePicks is the simplest way to play. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats. If you get them right, you win. It takes less than 60 seconds to make your lineup. You can play anywhere PrizePicks operates, including California, Texas, and Georgia. I've been using PrizePicks during both football Sundays and NBA tip-offs. It keeps every game exciting. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups and after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. We are back here, Locked On Ravens Squad Show. Sam Njoku, Kevin O, Q, talking Ravens football after the Ravens pick up a huge victory over the Cleveland Browns. Wasn't pretty. In fact, it was downright ugly. I mean, Kevin called it gross on his reaction show, so that tells you everything you need to know about what we witnessed here. But there are some positives to take away from it, but we need to touch on some more of the negatives because you mentioned, Q, this offensive line continues to struggle. I will say that it felt like the Ravens offense wasn't prepared for the running game to work so well. I think Derrick Henry did an amazing job when he was given the opportunity. 18 carries, 103 yards, 5.7 yards a carry to go along with that touchdown score. The Ravens did well rushing the football, but when it came to protecting Lamar Jackson, it just seemed like this offensive line had no answers. The fact Terrell Suggs on social media said was 95 not on the scouting report, which tells you all you need to know about how dominant Myles Garrett was on the football field that day. Q, you talked about Daniel Falele being, putrid and being top heavy and all of that. And Kevin, we've also talked about how there aren't really any answers in store for this Ravens offensive line. Q, do you think that this offensive line is good enough to potentially help this team win a championship if they were given the opportunity in the postseason? Or are you just flat out you don't believe there's no shot that this offensive line with Daniel Falele, with Voorhees can compete for a championship, even if they get it together record-wise and get into that postseason?
I don't know what football you've been watching, but no. No, really. Like, Denver is the real deal defensively. They got some dudes that will get after the quarterback real quick, like across the board. They don't have like one guy. They got a couple guys. In your own division, you have TJ Watt. Thank God Myles Garrett is now in the rearview mirror. But then you also have Hendrickson over there in Cincy twice. So you got 4 games where you're going to be like, oh boy, I haven't really fully studied the Patriots, but I think just their defense as a whole is a strong competitive one. This is like concerning, very, very concerning. The Colts, they are quick and fast and they like to kind of just, run all over the place. The next thing you know, you wind up with tackles for losses because of their speed. Who else in the AFC? I mean, shoot, we already saw what the Bills did, but I think, the Bills are gettable. Chiefs clearly might not even make the playoffs either. We might be having the Chiefs and the Ravens playing tiddlywinks on the sideline, watching the game. Andy Reid and John Harbaugh like, hey, what are you doing? I don't know. You want to go on vacation? Yeah, sure. Hey, tell the kids, we'll just hang out. Hang on, Taylor Swift gonna be like, everyone's invited to my concert, all in the front row, no problem. Okay, thank you. Like, it might not even be anything with the Chiefs, so we can go ahead and put them on the side. Who are some of the other teams that we could potentially face in the playoffs? I mean, that's what we're looking at. We're not. I am a glass half full individual, and right now I am seeing the glass have some like chinks in it that's leaking out water, because the glass is full with the talent that you have, but it's leaking. It's leaking out water. And I don't like it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if the O-line continues to play the way that they are, there's going to be a game where it's just like, not that there haven't been catastrophic games with it already, but like you're going to get down the stretch, and if you do end up winning the division and making the postseason, like that stuff is going to come back to bite you. And with some of the red zone woes and third down predictability and some of the stuff along those lines, like you have an all-time great quarterback in Lamar Jackson, you have an all-time great running back in Derrick Henry. You have Zay Flowers, who's been credible this year for the most part, and getting in multiple plays today where there wasn't a Browns defender within like 10 yards of him. He was just like finding soft spots in that zone, making plays. But it's just like sometimes one unit can be a detriment to an entire team. And, not even just one unit, but one specific part of one unit can be a very detrimental part to a team. We've talked about that in the first half with this defense 2 years in a row, and luckily they've been able to get it back together. But at the end of the day, the offensive line needs to play a lot better, or else I don't think they have a great shot. Like, I think they can still win games in the regular season. They have the schedule to do it. And, I just think that the way the division is, like, I have confidence there. Once you reach that postseason, can you put together 4 straight games of solid offensive line play? I mean, that's a really tough ask against teams like Q mentioned, Denver, Indianapolis, some of those other teams. Like, it can be tough. So it's not impossible, but they haven't shown me anything offensive line wise that gives me confidence in them moving forward.
So you're saying there's a chance. It's a chance the Ravens can do it.
I guess, but I'll feel good about it.
I will take the positives, but yes, you're right. The offensive line is a detriment. We talked about the red zone offense being quite terrible. Joel Gutierrez says Ravens red zone offense is going to be the main reason we don't do anything this year. It's hard to disagree with that because the offensive line, whenever they get inside the red zone, when Derrick Henry ran for that huge gain and got inside the 10-yard line, I had zero hope that the Ravens were going to punch it in because they've been so woeful. And a lot of that has to do with the offensive line. Some of that, some say, may have to do with Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson, for the second straight week, has not looked fantastic. He was 14 for 25, 193 yards, 0 touchdowns to go along with 2 interceptions. He barely ran the ball as well. 4 carries for 10 yards, 2.5 per average, obviously, with that. Kevin, this Lamar Jackson needing to be Superman to get the job done. Didn't need to be Superman to win this time, but he hasn't even looked like a regular superhero. And he hasn't looked like, Spider-Man, hasn't looked like Superman, hasn't looked like, Aquaman. He doesn't look great. I don't know if the offensive line is the reason for that. Some of that has to do with it, but it just looked like he doesn't look 100%. Do you think he's still a little banged up from that hamstring injury? Maybe that knee soreness held him back a little bit, or do you think it's just him not being able to do it with his offensive line?
No, it's probably a little of both. I mean, the knee stuff. I mean, he said he feels good, so I'm going to trust him. He's given me no reason not to not trust him. So I think he feels good. But again, like, you kind of have to work through those injuries throughout the course of a season. I mean, again, I've never played sports professionally to know that. Q would know better than me about how you manage injuries during the year or manage soreness or whatnot. And, I'm curious, Q, to hear your answer on that. But I think that part of it is like, yeah, Lamar wasn't great today in terms of some of the throws he made. The 2 interceptions were not his fault, obviously. So I'm not going to put those on Lamar. But some of these other plays, it's like, how much does this team need to ask of Lamar Jackson to go out there every single week? Because it feels like they're asking the world every single week of him to go out there and perform and play and essentially save them. And, he's not perfect. Nobody's perfect. And so when he has a game like this, where sometimes those throws were behind guys or low, I mean, he made some great throws throughout the course of this game, but other ones you're just kind of like, oh, what's going on there? But a lot of this is okay. He's getting flushed out of the pocket after a second and a half or a second. And you're like, all right, how can anybody do this consistently for as long as he had to do it during the course of this game and even this season? So, is Lamar 100% right now? Probably not, especially with some of the stuff he's dealt with this season. But, at the same time, I just think the expectation for Lamar is so sky high. And look, I'm not saying today was a good game from Lamar, but, Lamar's bad games usually are what opposing quarterbacks, like the average quarterback, what their medium to good game would be. And this was not one of those weeks. But at the same time, it's like, if I'm seeing my O-line on the ground or Myles Garrett bearing down on me within a second and I have to step up or go out of the pocket, there's only so much I can do with that on a play-by-play basis.
When you look at injuries, I remember Chris Carter was fond of saying speedsters, explosive players, they have toughest job in football when it comes to their career. And the reason why is because you rely so much on your abilities to make guys miss and or be explosive and do the spectacular, but the father time element of it all is undefeated. And so when that elevator of talent, which is always on the rise, and time, which is kind of coming down, and next thing you know, your talent doesn't equal what your production is on the field because of time, then basically it's like, what else do? You better mentally be so good that you can overcome things, a la quarterback wise. It would be a Peyton Manning, who didn't really have, this spectacular athleticism and all that, but he had to cerebrally get around to make himself successful and have the sustaining career. Lamar is in the realm of all the greats he is the pinnacle. let's just be clear. What the Lamarites trying to twist my words, but he is at the pinnacle of the dual threat quarterback. However, at the same time, I know Steve Young on one of our other colleagues' shows a couple years back was saying how it'd be cool for Lamar to pick and choose his spots and the whole flow of it all. Well, when Steve Young is saying that, and he's one of those guys that is at the top when it comes to the dual threatness and has won championships, it's the processing of the play that gives you a chance to not get banged up. So right now, hamstring, knee, there's still like something going on. Did he look good? Sure. But he didn't look like, oh yeah, he's running right by you. Mm-hmm. He wasn't able to be that elusive guy. And so this is where Lamar's going to have to try to figure it out from a, aspect of protection, from an aspect of how am I going to get rid of the ball better, all those little details. If, because we just don't know.
Oh, Q. Might have lost him. Might have
lost you, Q.
Oh, no.
I'm going to give you 2 seconds to try and come back. There he is.
There he is.
I was saying, I want to try to help him recover, and in that recovery process, be that dynamic guy. But my point is that how do you get yourself in a position to recover so you can be that full expression of yourself and help out your team?
That is the question. I think that, I've given Lamar some grace. Again, I wasn't expecting a great outing against this Browns defense. I think we'd see similar things against the Broncos, as you mentioned, Q. Regardless, you'd hope that the guard play will improve so that it's not as glaring an obviousness that the talent between these two lines are clearly as outmatched as it is. But I think we'll see better from him next week. If we see him against the Jets and he looks as poor as he did against the Browns, then we'll have a conversation. But right now, I'll give him some grace here. Hopefully he gets healthier with that knee and that hamstring, and he goes out and shows the world what he's about against the Jets and the Bengals on Thanksgiving. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to touch on the defense. We haven't talked about the defense, and they were stellar against Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders. We'll touch on who the star performers were and where we see this defense moving forward throughout the rest of the regular season here on the Locked On Ravens Squad Show. NFL season is back, and honestly, there's nothing better than being in the stadium surrounded by fans cheering on your team. But let's be honest, getting tickets can be a hassle between queues, login screens, and prices jumping at checkout. It is frustrating. That's why I use Gametime, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. Gametime is fast, easy, and backed by the Gametime guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay. I pulled up Gametime, and in just a couple of taps, I saw amazing deals. I'm talking about your favorite NFL games as low as $100. Honestly, it's faster, cheaper, and less stressful than any other way I've bought tickets. Download the Gametime app, Create an account and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go download Gametime today. We are back with the Locked On Ravens Squad show, available twice a week. We have the post-game show today, and we'll be back on Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time talking Ravens football and getting ready for that matchup against the New York Jets. But before we get to that, we had to touch on this Ravens-Browns game because the Ravens defense came to play, dominating once again. That three-safety look has once again prevailed against Dylan Gabriel, who after going down was substituted by Shedeur Sanders. More of the same from Shedeur Sanders as the Ravens just dominate the passers for this Browns team. Of course, they had some running game success with Judkins and others, but overall, this Ravens defense came to play. Q, what was your assessment of this Ravens defense against the Cleveland Browns?
You did what you were supposed to do. Water is wet. Dylan Gabriel is not Aaron Rodgers. He's not Joe Flacco. He's not top-rated quarterbacks. He's not going to be Drake May. He's Dylan Gabriel. He and Shedeur Sanders should not be in the conversation as those upper-tier quarterbacks. They're in their rookie year, and they, quite frankly, are struggling. Bo Nix came to the vault last year, and he, in his rookie year, did well, did some things, but they are not even in that caliber. And so in my mind, I know that this was a division game. You needed to have that win. You needed the defense to save you, and they certainly did. When you had the pick six, you're like, oh, man, this is not good. Obviously, they had a turnover again, and it was a short field. Defense goes out there and saves them. When they had LaJohntay Wester fumble, defense goes out there and saves them, holding them only to 3. So this is what you're supposed to do when you're playing up against a lesser quarterback. I appreciated the fact that they were able to tighten up the running game. I was a little bit disappointed in the one where it was both Mike Green and Malachi Starks allowing, I think it was Dylan. I don't think it was. Yeah, it was before he got hurt. So like a contained element of it all, you didn't get you let him get outside of you. And now I was like, what is that? So are there things to clean up? Sure. I think also interesting, and I'd be curious what you think, guys. And but Trent Simpson, it just seems like he has found his little niche. I don't need to play linebacker and see ball, get ball. That's it. That's what we're gonna have you do. See ball, get ball, boom, done. Come on in here. We need you to. All right, okay. We'll let Buchanan. We'll let Roquan do all the other stuff. See ball, get ball. I think that has been something that has been a pleasant surprise. Travis Jones seems to still be trending in a awesome direction of awesomeness. Secondary, you're supposed to lock guys down the way you lock guys down. Nate, you better have got that interception. That was a gift. Good. I'm glad. That's what you're supposed to do. KVN, great move. I know the announcers were like, oh, he came in untouched. And I look back at the replay. I'm like, no, he didn't. That was a football play. That was like him just giving a little bam, quick little to the outside. And then, come back up on in there. And then, okay, Dylan, go ahead, bro. What you doing right now? Ow, got you on the ground. Don't mess with me. Yeah, that's right. So Kyle Hamilton. Kyle just feels like, it's Cleveland, so why should I even bother catching an interception? I'll just go ahead and get sacks and stuff. That's what he does. So, hey, all right. But defensively, growth, we've seen the growth. That's good. You're going to go up against Justin Fields. Maybe you might go up against who's his backup?
Tyrod Taylor,
Tyrod
Raven
Taylor.
legend.
Tyrod, thank you.
Raven legend. Super Bowl champion.
You might go up against Tyrod Taylor. So, okay, whomever is in the jet green, then go get him. Go get him. And I can't wait till you get him because this is it, So kudos to Zach Orr and company for getting them ready to play for this week.
Yeah, I mean, 100% agree. I mean, it's something I talked about all week. I think I talked with both of you about this too, just on the shows I had you on for the regular Locked On Ravens show. Is like, this offense in Cleveland, it's terrible. It's hard. They're the worst passing offense in the league. They're a bottom 5 run offense. They can't put points on the board. And this is what happens, and especially with Shedeur Sanders, who, look, after seeing Dylan Gabriel, I'm all the way out on him. And I was higher on Dylan Gabriel than most people during the draft process. But after seeing him, I don't see it with Dylan Gabriel. Shedeur Sanders is too early to tell. But we can say that in this game, he wasn't good. Now, why wasn't he good? Well, because he came in cold off the bench against the Ravens defense that's found their stride. And, he wasn't expecting it. And, certainly he wasn't ready for that moment. And that's okay for Shedeur Sanders. Like, I still believe in him and, want to give him grace and time. But, at the same time, like, the Browns had a real opportunity to win this football game if they just had any semblance of a quarterback out there that could make throws and not make mistakes. And between Gabriel and Sanders, they didn't have it. And, shout out to the pass rush that, yes, is starting to really find their stride with rushing 4. We still saw the Ravens be aggressive in blitz, but like Draymond Jones has been unreal so far through 2 games. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what he can continue to do as he continues to get more up to date with the system and just being a part of the team. Travis Jones, although I know I saw that man drop back into coverage one time, and I was like, all right, hold on a second. Hold on. I don't know if they're trying to get their Michael Pierce interception again this year, but I'm like, all right, we might have to slow down a little bit with that one. But, Mike Green's really starting to turn a corner, and Kyle Van Noy showed up in a big moment. And, they were really forcing Shedeur to move out of the pocket. And again, like, Shedeur was kind of facing some of the stuff Lamar was facing today, which is like the Browns offensive line dealt with like 2 or 3 injuries over the course of this game. They were already banged up, and we saw like snap pressure in like half a second, in a second. And like, he had to escape. And it's a lot easier when you're Lamar Jackson and a vet and have been through that before. And, you're as great of a player as Lamar Jackson is, as opposed to Shedeur, who is coming in his NFL debut. So, I mean, it just kind of felt like, it felt so frustrating because it was like, all right, if the Ravens just score one time, they're going to win this game, but they just couldn't. They couldn't take the lead. I was like, if you take the lead, you're going to win the game. But it took so long for them to do it and work up to that point. It's like, all right, loop field goal. All right, another loop field goal. All right, now you got to do the hurricane. I don't know. I wonder if there's a tornado play, and that's for likely him doing the sneak and then him running off. And I don't know what Kohler's would be, Q. Would that be like earthquake? He's thumping down the line. He's running. Yeah, earthquake for Charlie. So I don't know, but hey, the Ravens finally got the hurricane. They finally brought the hurricane, and then all of a sudden, I mean, after they scored that touchdown, that Phantom play over the middle scared me a little bit, and I was like, all right, no big plays now, please. But I give Zach Orr a lot of credit for turning this defense around. Again, yes, there are still things they need to work on. The missed tackle. This defense does have a missed tackling problem. It is an issue. Gilman has been a big part of that. I think on that Jerry Jeudy play, they missed like 3 tackles on that one play to let him pick up a first down. And you had him stopped like 4 yards or 5 yards before the sticks. And, Jeudy jukes out. I think Gilman and maybe it was Buchanan, or I can't remember who the other guy was, ran into each other, and Hamilton whiffed on him too. Like, those are moments you can't have happen. I know that the exact player talking about, Q, I think it was Gabriel, where Starks took the bad angle and kind of outraced him to the sideline. Like, those are the types of plays that you can't have as a defense. But look, I'm not complaining about the defense in this game. They saved the Ravens over and over and over again. And really, this is a true definition of just keeping the offense in it until they could finally break through. To just keep them attached. Don't let Cleveland continue to build a lead. And they were dealt a bad hand. Yeah, I mean, multiple short fields that they had to deal with. 7 of those points weren't even theirs. They were the offenses because of the pick 6. Like, the defense did what they were supposed to do against a terrible offense. I think, Q, you said it perfectly.
Yes, he did. He said it as well as you can about this defense. When we come back, we'll have one more topic of discussion about this defense, and then we'll move on to the Ravens bid for the AFC North. Lots and lots of conversation with the AFC North, as both, all 4 teams played each other in some aspects. So lots of shuffling in the division. Some people got buried, and some people are staying afloat in the AFC North. We'll touch on it here next on the Locked On Ravens Squad Show. We are back here at the Locked On Ravens Squad Show as we talked about the Ravens took care of business against the Cleveland Browns. Before we get on what we think is going to happen in this division, do have one more comment about this defense, because there is a bit of, the Ravens are doing well on defense, but who have they played? Since the Houston Texans shellacked this Ravens defense, the Ravens have faced off against the Rams, held them to 17 points. Now, some of that is because the Rams offense was a little sputtery. They held the Bears to 16 points, Caleb Williams to 16 points. It held the Dolphins to 6, J.J. McCarthy to 19, and the Browns just now to 16. So the Ravens haven't really faced off against a top-tier offense since the Chiefs game, if you want to say the Chiefs, because they're 5-5. They have the Jets next, and then you get into the nitty-gritty with this Bengals offense, potentially, and the Pats and Packers. I don't know if I want to put the Steelers up there yet, especially with the injury to Aaron Rodgers, which we'll get to. But what are your thoughts on this defense, Kevin, having the fact that they've only played, subpar passers? Do you still give this defense the credit? Because, they're still getting after the passer. Do you think the passers are holding on to the ball too long? Maybe, but I think the pass rush has still improved mightily. Some of that's blitzing, some of that's the 3 safety looks, and some of that is the fact that these edge rushers are finally getting after the quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like for Baltimore, there are so many things that, you can look at, but especially with the turnaround that they have had defensively, I think that sparked the entire team, if we're being honest, is kind of going out on that tangent for a little bit, where, there was so much doubt, and we all talked about it throughout the course of this season. I mean, it wasn't good early on. We can all say that and admit it and be like, hey, there was a lot of work to be done. But when you start to get the pressure they have on the quarterback, when you start to really see them playing as a unit, start to have fun and just celebrate and believe again, I think that truly sparked this entire team. And then that carries over. So like, hey, you can make a big play in a big moment, or, like offensively, you can finally break through at the end there. So I give a lot of credit to what Baltimore has done defensively. Zach Orr in there as well. Like, a lot of it is experience and just learning. The Ravens haven't really had time for that, but I guess they are doing it. The thing is, though, this is kind of what they're going to have to work with. You can still improve by the time the playoffs start, but, first of all, you have to get there. There's still a long way to go before the season ends. But second of all, I just think that with what we've seen, Zach Orr and the adjustments that he's made, some of the bye week things with the blitzing and the pressure, it all kind of comes together into one. So I'm excited about this defense moving forward, because I think it's really turned a corner. And I think like this is the new version of the Ravens defense. Is it perfect? No, it's not perfect, but it's much more passable and a lot better than it was a month ago, which is all you could ask for.
Yeah. It's interesting. I think when you see the way the season has gone and the up and down nature of the league itself, I'm not necessarily saying that all is right with the defense. I do take courage that you see, like, for example, that Chicago game and the way in which they were able to just right the ship and get the necessary plays that were required for a win. And then you look at Chicago the next couple of games and seeing how Chicago was just like making big play after big play and being really smart and gritty and tough and finishing and all those, big buzzwords to kind of hold Chicago in check really says an awful lot. The way in which J.J. McCarthy and company, I know that, ironically, they lost to Chicago on a late field goal, but that's a division game. I think for the Vikings and what their offense was about going into the week with the Ravens, it was like, all right, we know that they got some talent, and that if you let them, stick around and hang around, they're gonna, make you pay. I think bigger picture wise, those are the glass half full moments that I'm looking at. The Rams game, I'm still just like, the Rams, they didn't play up to expectation. So I'm just going to just say that one because they straight up, just whooped up on the Jags the following week. If this defense can bring it against, again, Aaron Rodgers and Joe Flacco, or who knows what, Joe Burrow is going to be about, then then okay, cool. But even Drake May. But it's gonna be a big challenge. I know Ymir, he cracked me up. I think it was him who was saying about Darnell Washington, the big tight end for the Steelers. Somebody needs to get on tight of him, and I'm laughing because when you look at the Steelers, he has, come alive. And I think Aaron Rodgers must have had a talking to him because up until this point, he was just big potential tight end. Oh, yeah. Oh, wow. But it was all just potential. I got obviously a chance to watch their game before this matchup versus the Browns. And, it looked like he was, kind of their only bright spot in certain circumstances to kind of help them out. So long story short of it, I am loving the way this defense is playing, but there's still work to be done.
Excellent way to put it, because there is still work to be done. Love the way they're playing. I mean, let's make no qualms about it. The Ravens just swept the Browns, as Goldman just said. That's actually very funny. Just swept the Browns. They're 2-0 in the division. 4 of their last 6 games are against the division, the AFC North. So they have 2 games coming against the Bengals, 2 upcoming games against the Steelers. And sprinkled in there is a couple of nonsense matchups against the Patriots and Packers, who looked absolutely amazing this week. So there are some contests to be had to see what this defense is about. I'm sure we'll find out. But this division, right now, the Ravens are 5-5. The Steelers pick up a victory against the Bengals. They move on to 6-4. The Bengals, they're 3-7. They're almost out of it. And the Browns are 2-8, and they're just about out of it. They'll need a stretch of games and some help to have any chance. The Bengals play the Patriots next week. They could be out of it before that Thanksgiving game. All that to say, there's a chance the Ravens could have this thing wrapped up before Christmas if they do what they need to do. It's going to be tough. Again, we saw what the offensive line did. It looked like against the Browns. Other defenses could take advantage of that. Kevin, what are your thoughts about this? After this win, after the loss the Bengals suffered, how are you feeling with this chase right now for the Ravens? Do you still think they have a shot, or could that Week 18 matchup still be the deciding factor upcoming for the Ravens and Steelers?
I would probably say the Week 18 matchup's still going to probably prove pretty important here. And, you can look at the Steelers' schedule right now, and they have the Bears coming up, and then it's Buffalo, Baltimore, Miami, Detroit, Cleveland, and then the Ravens. So, I mean, if you just want to say, all right, let's just say they'll lose to the Bills and Lions. Let's just say those are 2 games that they lose. How many games are the Ravens going to lose? 1, 2, I don't know. It seems like they're going to be very close. I think that honestly, everyone is talking about the Week 18 game. That first matchup is going to be huge for the first tiebreaker. To say like, all right, if we sweep you in Week 18, whichever team wins that game, then we're going to have the no doubt tiebreaker. But the big thing for Baltimore is actually, I need to look at the AFC North standings real quick to confirm this, is that Baltimore, they've only played 2 division games against Cleveland, right? They're 2-0 in the division. Pittsburgh is 2-1. So if Baltimore somehow miraculously, they get, let's just say they lose one of those 2 games to Pittsburgh, and they win every other AFC North game, and then maybe Pittsburgh wins every other AFC North game. It'd be, if you have a tie in record, a tie in head-to-head, and a tie in division record, it would come down to conference record, I believe, is the 4th tiebreaker division-wise. Don't quote me on that, but I know that conference record for every other tiebreaker is that. Baltimore's conference record is worse than Pittsburgh's right now. So there are a lot of things that first game in Week 14, or is it 14? I think, 14 is going to tell you.
14.
And if they win that game, they're going to be in the driver's seat in that division, especially because Ravens and Pittsburgh games are so weird. But I think that, again, Cincinnati being where they are, honestly, Joe Burrow, you might as well just call it a season, man. I mean, I don't know why you come back when, the Bengals, I mean, what are they going to do? He's going to come back on Thanksgiving and risk that injury more? I mean, I wouldn't do that if I were Joe Burrow. I'd look out for my health. I'd say, Joe Flacco, go ahead. And I don't know how long Joe's going to be playing. I don't know if that's that way, but I mean, look, I think Cleveland's obviously out of it. Cincinnati, they're not going to be in it as well. This comes down to Pittsburgh and Baltimore, and wouldn't be shocked if that Week 18 game is the Sunday night football game for the division, much like we saw with Detroit and Minnesota last year.
Yeah, I just think that it's interesting, the bigger picture of trying to, decide who does what. I think you said Chicago plays Pittsburgh next week, right?
Yep.
And that's up in Chicago?
Yes, I believe it is.
Good. So I think Chicago, knowing that they just came off a tough game, Pittsburgh coming off a tough division game, this is a good opportunity to make sure that Pittsburgh stays down and that, Chicago does what they need to do. I think it will be interesting, though, because Pittsburgh's defense has played a heck of a lot better. Clearly, the Chicago receiving core is nowhere near the level of a T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. I know they play a lot of man-to-man, and they really challenge it. They challenge you at the line of scrimmage. So the matchup on paper right now, it favors what Pittsburgh does and likes to do, although it'll be interesting to see what happens if Mason Rudolph is going to take the helm because of Aaron Rodgers' possible break in his left hand. All those things will kind of come into play, but it's fascinating to see, the common opponents and, the different games. But bottom line, win the division is what the Ravens, their mantra, number one in the discussion needs to be.
Win the division. That's absolutely right. The Ravens, again, one game back of the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers, as you mentioned, play against the Chicago Bears in Chicago. So that'll be a good game. We don't know if Aaron Rodgers is going to be playing. He has that wrist injury. And the Cincinnati Bengals, they may not have Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase caught on camera in 4K spitting on Jalen Ramsey. Yeah. He might be suspended for a game, hopefully 2 games. Missed that Thanksgiving game. Put your foot down, NFL. No more spitting. Make it a 2-game suspension. Keep him out of that Thanksgiving matchup. I'm sure they won't do that. Money talks in the NFL. We'll probably see him out for that first contest against the New England Patriots next week. But it is in Cincinnati, so, maybe happen. I don't know. Joe Flacco could cause some damage, but I think both of those teams are potentially losing. No doubt the Ravens win on Sunday against the Jets, right? I mean, there's no way the Ravens lose to Justin Fields. We will certainly find out either way. But again, thank you so much for joining us here on the Locked On Ravens Squad Show. Sunday Night Football is on, so if you're here, you're a true blue Ravens fan and a Locked On Ravens fan of that. So I appreciate you guys for joining us. Be sure to like and subscribe on the way out. If you're listening wherever you get your podcast, be sure to give us 5 stars. Leave a comment. Tell a friend about the show, about the series, about the Squad Show. And welcome to the family for all those who continue to join us for the first time, who join us for the first time, and those who continue to show support. So appreciate everybody here for tuning in to the Locked On Ravens Squad Show. For myself, Kevin, and Kadri, appreciate you guys again for joining us, and we will see you on Wednesday.